Good morning. I'm Jo Dillon. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Linn County, and I will be moderating the forum this morning. Welcome, and thank you for attending today. The League of Women Voters is a trusted, nonpartisan political organization. Members do hands-on work to safeguard democracy. While we, as a league, never endorse a candidate, personally, as citizens, we are free, unless we're holding office in the league, to endorse candidates. We are directly involved, however, in shaping the important issues to keep our community strong. All members of the community, men and women, are invited to join League. Persons not eligible to vote are welcomed as associate members. Today's sponsor of the forum are the League of Women Voters, Linn County, and in celebration of Women's History Month, which is March, the American Association of University Women, and I'd like to read their statement. The Cedar Rapids branch of the American Association of University Women is a network of women and men that seek equal pay, adequate health care, justice, and education. AAUW holds monthly forums to inform members of community needs and ways that we can make a difference. Over 8,000 middle school girls have attended our annual STEM conference to inspire them to strive in science, math, and technology so that they are prepared for rewarding careers. Each year, the National Association awards $4 million in fellowships and grants to women pursuing higher education and implementing community action programs. I would like to thank the following legislators for attending today's forum. We have Representative Taylor, Representative Stade, Representative Reiser, Representative Bennett, sorry, I need to go to, Senator Hogue, Senator Horn, no, not Senator Horn, and Senator Mathis. Unfortunately, Dan Zumbach has a previous engagement and was unable to attend. I would also at this time like to thank Deb Roberts and her team for helping with arrangements, and to Mercy Medical Center for the use of this facility. Please notice the cameras that are placed around the room. This forum is being taped on behalf of Mediacom and IMON by ProVideo and will be rebroadcast on IMON Channel 6 and Mediacom Channel 18. It's also being taped by Neighborhood Network News and will be available to view at both the Linn County League of Women Voter linncounty.org site, all one word, and neighborhoodnetworknews.com. There is information in the back of the room if you haven't visited the League of Women Voters table that includes directory for elected officials, legislative committee assignments, email sign-up sheets for those who would like to be emailed league events, and there's also these question cards because we'll take written questions during the forum. If you have a question, raise your hand so we can collect it, or if you need another one of these, please raise your hand so we can give you one. Information on the table just outside of the forum includes League of Women Voter membership information and information from the legislators. The structure of our forum today is that the legislators will each share for 1.5 minutes topics that are important from this legislative session. After this time, the floor will be open for written questions. Legislators will have 1 minute each to respond to these questions. Legislators will confine their statements and responses to relevant issues and refrain from personal attacks. At this time, we ask you to please turn off your cell phone or set it to vibrate. If at any time during this forum you cannot hear the moderator or the legislators, please let us know. And we request that you treat all of the legislators fairly, both in your questions and by refraining from any kind of acknowledgement until the very end of the forum. This will allow us time to get more questions in. You are encouraged to submit questions for the legislators on the provided pieces of paper. Questions will be asked, or each legislator will be encouraged to respond to each question, so they're not going to be addressed to a single person. A league panel will review the questions for legibility, clarity, and applicability to all legislators. I will read as many questions and try to cover as many topics as time allows, and therefore may combine similar questions. Because of the time limit, we may not get all questions in. Some legislators have agreed to stay 15 minutes at the end, so you can talk to legislators individually. Again, please remember to hold up your hand if you need a written question collected or would like another piece of paper so that a league member may assist you. And so at this time, we will begin the forum, and we'll start with Representative Taylor. Each legislator will have 1.5 minutes to address important topics.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is Todd Taylor, a state representative for most of Northwest and part of Southwest Cedar Rapids. Since we've last met in this forum, a couple things of newsworthy for you. We've passed a second funnel, which helps winnow all the bills eligible down to a smaller list. I won't read you that list. It's a pretty big list, but it's a lot smaller than all those that are introduced. And then last week, the Revenue Estimating Conference came up with their revenue projections. We'll end up continuing to use the December numbers, so our budget process can really start in earnest this coming week. I'm the ranking member of the Justice System budget and have a leadership role there, and then Representative Reiser and Running Marquardt and I are on the Full Appropriations Committee. And for the Justice part, we've finished all of our hearings where we hear from department heads, and we'll develop our budget based on the two parties' budget targets, and the monies that are available. And I do believe that we're on track to being done at a reasonable time frame, not late June or anything like that. But I'll just leave it at that and look forward to more details from your questions and what you are interested in.
Thank you. Representative Stade.
All right, thank you, Representative Art Stade, and I wanted to thank you all for being here. It's very important that we address your questions and issues. I'm very anxious about the budget numbers and the budget that we work on coming this next week. We're more than halfway through the session, and the three most important priorities that the legislators should have addressed by now, particularly the House, would be the supplemental student aid. It's been over 400 days now that by law that was to have been set, so we need to do that and do it right away at a level that will adequately fund our schools. The second one is the oversight of the transition to Medicaid. We still don't have an effective and strong oversight for that. We seem to be getting nowhere in any kind of bipartisan way to make sure that our most vulnerable population in this state is well protected, and the providers as well. So I'm looking forward to finally seeing some debate on that in the Iowa House. And the third one is water quality. We don't seem to address the water quality and our environmental issues this year either. So those are, I think, are the top three priorities, and I'd like to see them further addressed.
Thank you. Representative Running Marquardt.
Good morning. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters and also the sponsors who sponsor these events. It's really important that we have opportunities for us to be in front of answering questions and know what your priorities are. I am Representative Running Marquardt. What I have heard from people over and over again that their priorities are for us to be fiscally responsible and to make sure that we have education and oversight of Medicaid as our top two priorities. Instead, I don't know if any of you have seen that TV show called Best Week Ever, where it's kind of a comedy show on a cable channel, but if you are a corporate tax credit, rebate, refund, you have the best week ever this week. And instead of putting our priorities first, such as quality public education or oversight for the Medicaid transition, we put coupling, which is $100 million, and 88 of that at minimum goes to big corporations. And then the coupling, not only coupling, but the biochem bill went through as well, and that's another $100 million to $92 to $100 million. That's additional to the $400 million that comes off the top of our budgets that we get every year for tax credits, tax refunds, and tax rebates. So I think we're not only doing it upside down, but then we're adding on top of that and not taking care of our priorities first and making sure that we're taking care of corporations instead. And
Thank you,
that's something I think we need to
Representative.
address. Thank you very much.
Representative Reiser.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I guess none of these are working, are they? Is it working? Okay, I'm State Representative Ken Reiser. I represent Marion, Bertram, Ely, and the surrounding parts of Linn County. And some of the big things that I've seen going on this week, for the first time in I don't know how long, the Senate, House, and the governor all agree on how much we can spend this year, which is $7.351 billion. It's actually less than what we're anticipating in revenue, but that is going to be the limit based on the 99% expenditure limit. So I'm expecting that we're going to get joint budget targets here soon, and that we'll be able to move ahead with the budget. On education, that is currently in conference committee. We've heard there's a deal. We're waiting for the deal to be announced. I'm hoping that'll be announced this week. For managed care oversight, the Senate passed a bill and sent it over. It was a massive bill. There's a lot in there, and it came kind of towards the end of the funnel. I know I've been working with the chair of the HHS committee and the HHS budget subcommittee, and everybody is committed to making sure we have good oversight for managed care. But we're going to have to do it in a bipartisan way. And then finally, on water quality, in the House, we've pretty much rejected the governor's plan to link water quality to the SAVE fund. But there are a lot of people working on a very significant water quality plan, and I'm proud to be a part of that. I want to make sure that our urban areas are included in addition to our rural areas.
Thank you. Representative Paulson. I'm sorry, Representative Bennett.
Thank you. I'm Liz Bennett. I represent Cedar Rapids Southeast Side, Czech Village, and also the Mountain View area in Cedar Rapids. I want to thank all of you for coming this morning. It's very important that citizens are actively involved in government, and I'm really happy that you're here this morning. What I'm not as happy about is that, as Representative Running Marquardt stated, we are halfway through the legislative session, and we just really haven't seen a lot of good development on the top 3 issues that people email me about. And that would be schools, funding for schools, Medicaid oversight, and water quality. Instead, it seems like we've spent an awful lot of time on things that I don't really get any emails advocating for, such as corporate tax handouts and legalizing gun silencers. So certainly, some disappointment. We are hoping that as we get these budget targets, that maybe we can work together and find a way to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Hogue.
Hi, good morning. I'm Rob Hogue. I'm a state senator here in Cedar Rapids. And so far, my morning has consisted of eating pancakes at the Indian Creek Nature Center and visiting with the first Tech Challenge North Super Regional right here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, with teams competing from about a dozen states. And I think both those experiences are actually relevant because on the pancakes, I will just tell, first of all, they were delicious. But the Nature Center is just that reminder that we have a significant water quality problem, and we are not addressing it. We need to put a significant infusion of new funds and new cooperative effort and monitoring so we can actually attack that problem. I've got a proposal on that, Senate File 2302, and I hope it will get some attention in the discussions that go forward. And of course, the first Tech Challenge is relevant to the debate over education. I mean, we have young people in this state and in this country who can accomplish so much if they get the level of assistance they need to accomplish that. And on education funding, we are not getting the job done. Whatever is going to happen, I'm just going to tell you, is going to be inadequate. We have had 6 years of underfunding education under Governor Branstad. It's got to stop. We need a new direction as a state if we want to have the high-quality education, not just in K through 12, but early childhood and college and job training as well. We need a new direction as a state on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hoag. Senator Mathis.
Yes, thank you. I get the privilege of working with this guy every day, so I really like it. I represent District 34, which is Hiawatha, Robbins, Marion, Ely, Bertram, Southern Linn County. I forget, swath of Cedar Rapids. And by and large, most of my email over the last 2 months has been about Medicaid. And I see some of my friends who have emailed me and kept me informed from a provider standpoint and also from a beneficiary or member standpoint. So Dan Strelner and Bob Hevel have been extraordinary in helping supply information in regard to the Medicaid transition. So we had an oversight meeting in the Oversight Committee with Senator Hoag this week. We also had Mickey Steer from IME come and report their readiness by April 1st when this transition takes place. And we are still not convinced as a legislative body that Iowa is ready for this transition. There are still some very wide gaps that we're concerned about. So we're still on it. We're trying to detangle, I guess, some of the issues here and try to find a better pathway for members of Medicaid. We're also struggling along with trying to come to a compromise on school funding. As Representative Running Marquardt indicated, we need to start to put education first in our budgeting instead of doing coupling and things like that first.
Thank you, Senator Mathis. All right, the legislators will now have 1 minute each to respond to these questions. We're going to start. We already have questions on the hot topics of the day. So water quality, and we'll start with Representative Stade. Who has a plan so far for Cedar Rapids working with 5 watersheds? Are they going to be sampling field tiles? How many times, etc.?
Can you repeat that question? Who has a plan for that?
Who has a plan so far? It says there's been a lot of talk about Cedar Rapids working with 5 watersheds. And what are they going to be doing?
I can't share that information from the legislature. That's been something that came from some federal funding, and the Cedar Rapids is working with the county and others upstream here on watershed improvements. So that is outside of what the legislature's been doing. The legislature needs to fully fund REAP and the Natural Resources Trust Fund so that we have the infusion to do that. We also need to have benchmarks that are set for water quality that give us a time and date in which we want to accomplish things. And we need better monitoring of those streams to identify where the point sources are of the nutrients that are coming into our water quality, into our water. So we need a better, stronger legislative plan for that instead of just the voluntary, which we don't believe is going to be effective enough. We're going to have to do additional things to make sure that we improve our water quality, and soon.
Thank you, Representative Stade. Does anyone else care to address this question? Okay, we'll start with Representative Running Marquardt.
If many of you don't know, Cedar Rapids, Linn County, we're part of the Cedar River Watershed Coalition. And I was excited a couple years ago after the flood to be a part of that group. And Senator Hoag, I hope, will speak to this because he really helped champion the beginning of this group as well. They're having 3 workshops coming up, one in Mason City on March 28th, one at West Branch City Hall, March 31st, and one in Cedar Falls, April 7th. And maybe you should Google that group or look into it if you want to have sort of more information. One thing that I think is a shame is, again, kind of going back to the priorities. In the Iowa House, we can pass a bill to protect turtles, but we can't pass a bill to talk about the water that the turtles are living in, Or we can't pass a bill or have communications about what are we going to do about water quality or watershed management in the state of Iowa. Instead, we look at bills that are being proposed not only by the governor but being looked at by House Republicans are how are we going to steal money from school infrastructure. The reason why the funds
you.
across the state of Iowa were passed were because people felt that that was going to go to schools. And that was also going to be property relief for schools.
Thank
And
you. We'll
instead,
need
it's
to
being
move on.
changed to move to water quality. Thank you.
Representative Reiser.
Thank you. The governor kind of put this at the top of the heap when he put forward his plan to use some of the SAVE money for water quality. We don't agree that we should divert money from education infrastructure to water quality, but we do agree that water quality is our top environmental issue that we've got to deal with, and we've got to do it this year. Des Moines Water Works has a lawsuit. That tells you how bad the situation has gotten. We need to have monitoring. We need to have a significant new investment, and it needs to be a combination of urban and rural focus. And there are plans being worked on. I know Senator Hogue has a plan as well, and I'm very, very hopeful that we will be able to do something at a grand scale on water quality this year. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Bennett.
Well, I can't help but chuckle a little bit at Representative Reiser's description of the governor's priorities as a heap. But on that, I wanted to share a little bit, people who are interested in water quality in the room might want to take a look at the Des Moines Register from yesterday. There is another plan that people are discussing proposed by Representative Marty Anderson and Representative Chuck Eisenhart, dealing with commodities checkoffs. So we don't have to go into details right now, but for those of you who are interested in water quality, you might want to check out the Des Moines Register from yesterday.
Thank you. Senator Hogue.
Well, water quality is an extraordinarily important issue. We have over 700 impaired waterways in our state. We are the second leading contributor to the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico as a state, behind Illinois. And we have a number of water supply facilities in the state that are having a real struggle complying with the federal standards for clean drinking water. And it's not just the Des Moines Water Works. It just happens to be the Des Moines Water Works has the best measuring. And they've done a great job of highlighting the importance of this issue. We need to act. It's going to require three components. These are in the legislation I proposed. Number one, an infusion of additional state dollars. We're simply going to have to put additional money into it. Two, you've got to have a cooperative watershed framework. And number three, you've got to have a monitoring program and a deadline and timetables. Now, it's also really important, I believe, to have a proposal that is compatible with the Natural Resources and Outdoor Recreation Trust Fund, because that is something that voters across our state support.
Thank you, Senator Hogue. Did anyone, okay, Senator Mathis?
And I'm just going to piggyback on what Senator Hogue said. When I picked up my coffee this morning, I bought it in Marion. The water in it is millions of years old. Marion taps into the Jordan Aquifer. And the Jordan Aquifer has limited amounts of water. And the more that we use it, and the more that we bring businesses into Marion that use that water in large quantities, the more that supply shrinks. And that is a huge issue with the city of Marion. The water director is really looking at that issue very carefully. So not only watershed and water quality, but water supply is an issue for many of our communities. Marion eventually, years from now, will probably have to draw from surface water, just like Cedar Rapids does. And they're trying to work out a plan right now. So all these conversations around water are very relevant to all of you.
Thank you, Senator Mathis. Representative Taylor, did you want to
I
respond?
don't have a lot to add. I will say that on the Appropriations Committee, there's about 11 budget bills that we deal with, and 2 of those will deal specifically with funding of some of the proposals we've talked about. So I'll get a chance to look at that a little closer, but nothing more to add.
Okay, thank you. This is another question about water quality, not related to the previous one. Are Iowa schools, hospitals, and public buildings checked for lead, et cetera, in their water? And we'll start with Representative Running Marquardt.
I believe, and I'm not sure to what degree, sort of in the rural areas are being checked for their water quality, but that we do check for lead. We, you know, not only lead, but nitrates are a huge issue, and I'm not trying to pivot the question, but if you saw in the Gazette, I think it was about a week ago, when you're looking at the nitrate levels, especially in the Des Moines area, they were 20 times, all the last 20 years put together, they had more nitrates in their water. So I think lead is definitely an issue. I think nitrates are a huge issue for us as well, and we don't want to turn into Flint, Michigan. We don't want to be the #2 reason why we have a dead zone. And we want to be a place where, for economic reasons as well, that people want to move here. People won't want to move here and raise their family here, and businesses won't want to move here if the water we drink is poisoning us, either through lead or nitrates or through other reasons. And so I think it's something that we need to address as a priority and stop sort of putting it off to the side. Thank you.
Thank you.